Night Live could be in jeopardy after a Hollywood union voted to go on strike.
Yeah, we're talking about 50,000 behind-the-scenes employees from the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. They're at odds with companies like Netflix, Apple, and Amazon. Employment lawyer Angela Reddock Wright joins us live to break down the union's demands. Good morning to you, Angela. Nice to see you. These are the very companies that dominated the Emmys. We're talking about Best Comedy a couple of years running. Why is this union going on strike?
Well, they've been attempting to renegotiate their contract for a few months now, and the contract talks have stalled. They're going at it again today, but if the negotiations are not successful, the union members have authorized, 99% of the union members have authorized their union to go forward with the strike. And basically, they're seeking better wages, better benefits. They want to be compensated for new media such as streaming services, and they want the union to make, or the Hollywood to make more of a contribution to their long-term pension and retirement plans.
So I heard you mention also better pay. So why do crews working on streaming services, like the Hulus and the Netflixes, why do you think they deserve more pay?
Well, I mean, Hollywood production companies, they're still dealing in the old way in which Hollywood worked, traditional TV shows that come on a traditional network, and now the medium has changed. There are still the traditional networks, but we have cable now, we have streaming, and the production companies have wanted to pay less for new media like streaming services, saying, well, that's streaming online, that's streaming on an alternative type of network, so the pay is not, they didn't see the justification for having to pay at the same level. But now crew members are saying, hey, these new mediums are just as popular as the traditional networks, so we want to be paid equal pay at the same rates as we were for traditional networks.
Not just as popular, far more popular by most standards.
Exactly,
right? I mean,
yes.
I mentioned the Emmys, but just look at the sheer numbers, too. People are watching more streaming content than they are the traditional networks. In fact, you could almost argue they are the modern-day blockbuster films of our time, with the exception of Venom and maybe a handful of others. How much have these streaming services grown in terms of the sheer volume?
Well, as you stated, tremendously. And depending on what generation you're talking to, some generations don't even watch traditional TV anymore. I happen to be caught between baby boomers and millennials. So I'm a Generation X. So I still do watch TV, but I do a healthy choice of streaming services as well, as I'm sure younger generations are doing. So definitely it's the wave of the future.
So Angela, I don't know if this was just me and my thinking, but a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Netflix was kind of like the low budget version of the movie theaters, right? Yeah. The movies and the shows that were put out on Netflix, they just weren't as good as movie theater. But now we're seeing, I mean, my first thing was Black Box or Bird Box.
Bird Box, Sandra Bullock.
Exactly. Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and that was one of the first best ones to me, in my opinion, where they actually had a tremendous budget that they were putting into this. And this is the reason why Scarlett Johansson was so upset, right, about the Black Widow situation. So that's kind of speaking to that point of why they think they should be paid more. But when we talk about a strike actually happening and, as it goes forward, how is that going to impact the economy? Will workers be able to collect unemployment?
Well, workers will be allowed to collect unemployment, but it have a much bigger impact in that essentially the movie industry or the production industry and television industry will shut down for however long the strike lasts. So it not only will impact those workers, it'll impact the studios, it'll impact the box offices. Basically, nothing will be in the works for several months potentially. So definitely the all-around impact of the economy will be great.
Is there any direct threat to some of our favorite shows at the moment, or is it too soon?
I think it's across the board because these are the crew members that work behind the scenes that help to bring the productions to life, that are actually on the set making it happen. So I anticipate it will be across the board. This union represents both crew members in California and throughout the country. And so they say, so goes California, so goes the world.
All right, Angela, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking about Netflix, one of my